And we are very appreciative that you have joined us for the starting lineup, which is brought to you by Play It Again Sports in the Fremont Shopping Center, Battlefield and Fremont Springfield. Great deals for you at Play It Again Sports. By Citizens Bank of Rogersville with two locales, one adjacent to Highland Springs and the other in Rogersville itself. Brought to you by Swing Right Golf on South Campbell, a little bit north of Nixa. Well, just plenty of entertainment there with the simulators and the outdoor outdoor batting cages.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, I'm getting right along with it here. And by Marshfield Chevrolet with the exit at I-44 and a couple of left turns, and you cross over I-44 and you're on the north side on the outer road, and you drive right into Marshfield Chevrolet. I'm Ed Reynolds along with
Scott Purrier
and Art Haynes.
Good morning, Arthur.
Morning, guys.
Two questions for you. Number one, did you ever find a cottonmouth in your headset when you were calling a Bears game? I don't know if you've seen that story. We'll tell you about it here in a second. And the other is, Did you ever lie about a hole-in-one?
No.
Okay, good. Well, then you have avoided two of the main wild stories that I found today for the show.
I never made one. I came within a foot one time, but I never made one.
Well, we'll start with that one. There was a guy in the St. Louis area, a member at Wing Haven Country Club, and this was a story from the New York Post. They had a members-only event, and he was playing in a tournament with three other partners.
Oh, yeah, I heard this.
Yeah, after 3 holes, he said he had to take a call from his sick grandma, and he was going to go ahead and hit on the 4th hole and play ahead of his guys, and they'd catch up with him in a team event. Well, he drives up, puts his ball in the cup, and then goes back to the tee, and when his teammates show up, he's like, I thinned it. I don't have any idea where my shot is. They go up there, and they start celebrating because the ball's in the cup. Well, this little thing called security cameras got the whole deal, and I guess there was a pretty good prize for the hole-in-one. This guy was a 2 handicap who played at William Carey College, Zach Holland, but he has since come out and admitted that he made the whole thing up because I guess he was catching a lot of he and his family were catching a lot of grief on social media. So one of the good places where social media comes in and corrects a wrong there. So, but got to give the guy points for creativity, don't you?
Well, you do. I mean, that obviously was blatant in his part, but it does kind of kill me, the armchair quarterbacks that call in violations and things they see while watching tournaments on TV. That's a bit much.
Well, and then the other story was a high school football player in Maumelle, Arkansas, practiced for several minutes with a 2-foot cottonmouth stuck in the padding on his helmet, helmet. Yeah, and he felt the helmet wasn't fitting right, takes it to an assistant coach, you look at it, and there's a cottonmouth in his helmet. And and the kid was back up. He grabbed another helmet, went back to practice. So he wins the toughness award in Maumelle, Arkansas. They call that Tuesday probably down there, and that happens. But
I don't give a damn award is what it is.
Yeah. Oh, Snake, look at that cottonmouth in my helmet. But anyway, a couple bizarre stories there. We'll talk about the more conventional stuff, but wanted to get to the text line. It says, yesterday Scott was lamenting about having to drop a streaming service that he catches some sports on because of the cost. And I think it was, I was talking about not being able to watch Hard Knocks. Because I'm not going to fork over $20 for a bundle that includes HBO Max. Yeah. You used to be able to buy those for $8, $9, $10 a month by themselves. And I would get it for a month, watch Hard Knocks, and then drop it.
What's the text?
The text is talking about, says, might I suggest he try NUFU TV? I hope this is not a joke, the NUFU TV. He can Google it. It's available on the iPhone App Store. Don't know about Android. It streams live just about every sport and all teams you could possibly be interested in. Also many other channels. It is a subscription service, but only $130 or thereabouts a year, so cheaper than a lot of the others.
Well, I'm familiar with the second of the acronyms because I'm
you used to tell me that basically every morning, NUFU, but then thanks for that. And then Pat Barr, we gave him a shout out about jokingly about that. He said, "Hey, see you guys later at the luncheon." It is the Ozarks Old Timers Luncheon Day out at Golden Corral, 11:30. John Roderick, our special guest, the legendary Webb City coach. Understand Scott Bailey, the legendary Lamar coach. And Kurt Thompson, the legendary also Webb City coach, will also be in attendance. So we'll have a few state championships in that room. Art, I know you're going to go to the Bears today. Is that correct?
Yeah, I hate to miss, but
Yeah.
the Bears have their annual football kickoff luncheon today
Sure.
at Bass Pro, so I'm going to go to that.
Sure, you bet. Well, looking at stories from yesterday, kind of recapping those, and then I went over one we didn't get to. The Chiefs are signing free agent defensive lineman Emmanuel Ogba. Is it Ogba? Ogba? How do you pronounce it?
Ogba.
1-year contract, bringing him in. Has been spent most of his time down in Florida, with the Dolphins and the Jaguars, I sense, but was with the Chiefs back in the maybe 2018-19 time of
I thought it was
It's been a while.
a little bit after that, I think it was. But, yeah, they did have him.
Been out there as a free agent. Is this tell you anything? Is it, they figured out they need more depth? How do you take away from this?
Yeah, that's what I would figure, that they figured they need more depth.
We also talked about Rashee Rice admits that it was a learning experience, air quotes, for him, his 30 days in jail this summer. That's good news, but what else is he going to say, right?
But he didn't say what he learned.
Yeah, exactly.
The learning experience.
26 years old, final year of his rookie contract. If he goes out and has a decent to big year, Art, do they re-sign him or do they wash their hands of Rashee Rice?
It all depends on how he acts. I think right now it'd be leaning toward letting him go.
Yeah, just to kind of maybe say we've been down this path a few times. But then again, if he has a big year, maybe he has grown up too.
Yeah, so that'll be closely watched. And I think, like I say, it depends on his demeanor and his production, but certainly also how he handles himself.
I told Ned that a lot of it may depend on if Xavier Worthy takes a step forward this year too, because you may have to bring Rice back if you don't have that alpha dog ready to jump into a bigger role.
Well, Worthy needs to stay healthy.
Yeah. And he's pretty frail, I think.
Right now, he's on the sideline with a shoulder injury.
Mm-hmm. And this was not Travis Kelce's fault, I don't think, this time. So, but another top story, NFL, Kyler Murray named the Vikings starting quarterback over J.J. McCarthy.
No surprise.
No surprise, but this is a Kyler Murray that Arizona was glad to see move on. And what does that say about J.J. McCarthy now? I mean, he gets beaten out for the starting job by a guy that another team didn't want.
Well, J.J. McCarthy hasn't proven anything. I mean, he's not been very effective in the NFL, so that's why they went out and got Murray.
Yeah, and Murray, of course, you face the same issues. Now, he's not had a receiving core quite like he has now in Minnesota with Jefferson, and they brought in Jawan Jennings. They got T.J. Hawkinson still at tight end. But the Murray knock has always been, is he big enough? Can he see downfield? And I think we'll find out real quick. Justin Jefferson will decide if Kyler Murray can see downfield because it was a nightmare year for him last year with the McCarthy experiment there. NFL other notes here. Bears lose safety Kobe Bryant for 4 to 6 months after knee surgery. A lot of people, JVT, we can talk to him about this as well at 8:30, but a lot of people see the Bears as being a regression candidate. What say you?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, they improved so much last year. And I think everybody's high on Caleb Williams, but they've got a tougher schedule this year, and so that's what it's. People are looking for improvement and regression, and they're kind of in the regression category.
And it looks like they're going to be without Luther Burden the rest of the preseason. Groin injury over the weekend. Probably going to sit him out. They say they hope he's ready for the season opener, but they let DJ Moore walk and trade him to Buffalo, and now he's Josh Allen's number one guy in Buffalo, but expecting Burden to step up. And I think Ben Johnson said that he would be their version of Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is pretty lofty expectations and praise.
Yes, it is.
Do you think Burden's capable of, if healthy, making that jump?
Well, like say, St. Brown is one of the top 3 receivers in the league. Mm-hmm. So that would be a bit of a stretch. But no, I've always liked Luther Burden, his skill and his speed. And, if healthy, I think he's got a chance to be a number 1 wide receiver.
And he was really coming on late last year. He and Colston Loveland were kind of their guys down the stretch. Ned, would you say, I think if I remember right, Mizzou fans were feeling like he didn't get the ball enough.
That's just it. That was his chief complaint of Mizzou. They're not passing the ball, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Well, he's got the speed. He's got the quickness. I think he has the determination to make it go, but never did quite get over the hump at Missouri. However, I agree with Art. I think the guy has a lot of capabilities.
If you're a fantasy football guy or a 49ers fan, the things you don't want to read, Christian McCaffrey sits out a second straight day with tightness. Doesn't say where the tightness is, but just tightness. 30 years old now. Had a big year, stayed healthy last year. If you're a fantasy guy, are you guys drafting Christian McCaffrey this year? Are you thinking that, hey, we got lucky last year, this is back to the days where he can't stay on the field?
At 30 years of age, you have to think that, hey, running back, tough guy, and all that sort of thing, but has it caught up with him?
Art?
I think I'd probably be wary of McCaffrey.
Find a younger guy maybe to hang your hat on there, younger running back. The other one there, Mike Evans, did return to practice. Of course, he came over to the Niners from Tampa Bay, and he's had a quadriceps issue. But Evans is 31 or 32, I think, at least.
That, yeah.
Yeah, and a guy that they paid quite a bit of money to come in and be their top guy there. Nick Bosa also out with tendonitis in his ACL repaired right knee. Did you guys follow the story about, is it a power substation right there by their practice facility? Have you seen that over the last year or two?
No. What team? The 49ers?
The 49ers, yeah. There's speculation that
this is the yes.
Yeah, that they're. Do you put any stock into that? That maybe I guess what it would be, the electromagnetic waves emulating from that substation are making these guys more injury prone? Could that be a thing?
You might have to remember, too, San Francisco was at the leading edge when ALS was very much in the headlines, and they had a cluster of 49ers who came down with ALS. And the big deal back then, this is about 25 years ago, 30 years ago, was that maybe it was the fertilizer they were using on the field.
Right.
Well, that got debunked.
Yeah.
And this one will too. I can't imagine electromagnetic waves, no.
Yeah, apparently making ACLs less strong, I guess, to survive what they do. Our buddy Phil Steele, did you see this story about apparently there have been some Phil Steele impersonators with college football previews on Amazon?
Really?
Yeah, and they were like 70 to 80 page football guides that they put Phil Steele's name on. Phil Steele actually had to come out yesterday on social media and say basically they're fakes. I mean, what's Phil's book? I've got it, you've got it. I think it's probably
we bought ours.
Well, we took out a loan to buy ours at Barnes and Noble. It's a $26 magazine now, but and it's probably 350 to 400 pages.
It's at least that, yes.
Yeah, but that's where we are now as a society, guys, putting Phil Steele's name on a 70-page book and trying to sell them. Amazon has since pulled those down as Phil, rightfully so, made a ruckus on that.
I hope they've arrested the guys who've done this, too.
Yeah. One other story, Matt Miller, the ESPN NFL draft analyst from the Joplin area, Missouri Southern grad, had built up his career as a guy that was on TV a lot. For ESPN pre-draft and during the draft with his breakdowns of and scouting work there. He has been charged with a misdemeanor stemming from the June car crash down outside of Webb City.
Which he was seriously injured.
Yeah, he lost an arm, lost his left arm, I believe, in that. But he's been charged with misdemeanor driving in not staying in the right lane of traffic. And this thing has taken on a whole life of its own because if you haven't followed it, Matt apparently had several fantasy football leagues on this sleeper app, and he was kind of presenting them as for charity. The entry fees would go to charity of several of these. He had one or two he was operating himself, and then offering prizes like first, second, and third. Well, when he had the wreck and he started a GoFundMe that raised over $50,000, I think his family started it. All of a sudden, people started coming out of the woodwork and saying, well, wait a minute, that guy, we were in his league, he promised this and this, and we never saw it. And so it really turned south on him, and I think the Missouri Attorney General got involved with it now, and this is where it's landed, at least temporarily, as charging him, because there was, and allegedly, he says he wasn't drinking, he wasn't under the influence of anything, he wasn't looking at his phone. He simply veered left and hit a semi head on there. And so,
Ooh.
yeah.
And you simply do that?
Well, and that's where the questions have come in from the media and from people is, did that happen accidentally? And so just a lot. And I feel bad for the guy because, it sounds like to me just speculating he dug himself a hole and was trying to find a way out of it. And this is probably not the way out that he had figured out there. But I would say his ESPN days are probably over to this point.
You would have to think so.
He's on air quote leave from ESPN right now. And then one other thing, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, WNBA and the whole Sophie Cunningham and her coach not defending her, Stephanie White, and then coming out and she just blasts the media and social media yesterday. Basically finishes her speech with, and if you don't believe me, y'all can go to hell.
Go to hell. That's what she said in a press conference. In
a press conference. Meanwhile, she had just said, we're going to kill it with kindness here and love and all this, and then tells everybody to go to hell. So, Art, is it sad that the WNBA now, basically we're talking more about technical fouls and Caitlin Clark's treatment and anything and everything that Sophie Cunningham does, and a commissioner that shows up every now and then with a statement, and coaches like Stephanie White, instead of what really should be the focus?
Well, it is. I mean, I'm just kind of tuning it out, all the off-the-court talk. No, it really is discouraging that that's the focal point right now of the WNBA, which is supposed to be about basketball competition.
Why does this not happen in the NBA and other sports?
Well, because they have built the tradition. The WNBA is still it's not maybe chronologically new, but it is in the mindset of many sports fans, and the NBA is not. And the NBA has done a good job of solidifying itself and keeping itself in front of the public in a positive way. And I think the WNBA has maybe chosen a different tact, is what it looks like.
Well, their commissioner's not good. You look at you have to have a strong commissioner that when something happens, within hours, there's a statement from the commissioner, we're not going to tolerate this or that or whatever. And she's missing in action a lot. But, boy, Stephanie White can be downright unlikable. Would you agree, Art?
Yeah, I would agree. And
Caitlin Clark gets a tee the other night for running into the official, and then they rescind it because it would have been her 8th technical foul, and she would have had to sit out.
She's having to sit out. Oh, suddenly we're going to rescind that.
The Dejanay Carrington, the former Stanford player, basically takes off Sophie Cunningham's head on a foul and comes out on social media and says it's white privilege, and then says she didn't mean it that way. And it just seems like it's become the WWE, not the WNBA with things.
Well, there are a lot of racial connotations to it.
And gender and everything else,
Right.
And it just seems like we're forgetting that they play basketball and they play a good brand of basketball. And that leads me to, I think it was Clay Travis, who's a little bit of a nut job himself, but he came out and on social media and said any boys state high school champion basketball team could beat any WNBA team. Your thoughts?
Wow.
Yeah. Do you want to go down that path, Art? Where do you stand on that? No, as in I don't want to go down that path, or
well, let's take a timeout on this.
I disagree. Yeah, you're telling me the Missouri Class 1 or 2 boys state championship team would beat a WNBA team? I think not.
Well, now the boys team was the one from St. Louis, which is pretty doggone good in Class 1.
Well, I'm just saying, okay, let's say Rogersville. Let's get John Schaefer on. Say, John, could you beat a WNBA team?
I know he'll take a timeout.
Yeah, you think he's going to ignore that call probably, but if you take Rogersville's boys this year, which is an example of what Clay Travis is talking about, could they beat Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever? That's the most quiet Art's been, I think, since we started the show.
Now, wait, what do you think?
The WNBA players are older and more experienced. They are female, but they're very physical. No, I don't think they could beat them.
I agree. I don't think they could. Do you, Ned?
I do not. I think the women's team would win simply by the fact that they are experienced and they know what to do and they have a good, solid game plan. Not that the high school kids don't, but there is still a major difference between pro and amateur at whatever the gender happens to be.
But would you like to see the Chase Branham versus Caitlin Clark matchup in that? That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
Chase Branham, good gracious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyway. All right. That's a good time to take a timeout, isn't it? Yeah, we'll take a timeout and come back with more.
We're out of here. Back in a second. Very interesting discussion we were having here on the starting lineup.
Ned said in the break Raj would win by 20.
Now, wait a minute. I did not say that.
You heard it, didn't you, Art? Ned said Raj would wipe the floor with the Indiana Fever.
Ned did not say that.
We were talking in the break, men's college team versus WNBA team, different story. You guys believe that?
Different story,
yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you've got to understand there's a period of time when the physical difference is perhaps not quite as great, but there is also a time when it is much greater.
Absolutely. So, baseball, we'll ditch this topic before we get in trouble at some point here. But baseball talk last night, Art, your Royals, boy, they're close again. Just can't get it done in the end.
Yeah, I know it. Great pitching performance by Waka last night. He was outstanding. And then in the eighth inning, that's their best pitcher, Steven Cruz. A 2-out hit by pitch kept the inning going, and then 2 straight 2-out doubles got them beaten. So they beat the Royals' best, and they couldn't score but 1 run.
I'll tell you,
of course, Blake Snell, and then Vesia. They've got a great bullpen to go with their starters.
Caglione and Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvi Perez had a couple of RBIs. So their offense is coming through. Offense can play. Boy, I have to tell you, they're tough ones to lose. So.
And I was, Jack stole a base last night. I think it's his 5th on the season.
Right.
Jordan Walker stole a base in the Cardinals game. I think it's his 15th. These are big guys.
Yeah.
And stealing bases in the major leagues, that's pretty noteworthy. And big young guys, that I guess with most of them, they'll do it now while they can, because when they get to be 30, probably not stealing nearly as much. But do you think there's some teams that regret now they didn't go out at the deadline and try to get Michael Wacha?
Well, I think some did, and the Royals really weren't interested in trading him.
How old is he now?
I'm
35.
34, 35, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Would you rather have kept him or get a couple prospects for him, like the Cardinals did for May?
Well, they could use some prospects. Although last night I went to the Springfield Cardinals Northwest Arkansas game, and Rockefort, one of the Royals prospects we talked about, hit 2 home runs.
Oh, wow.
And a catcher that I'd never heard of hit 2 home runs. And it was we left in the 8th inning. It was 13-7 Northwest Arkansas. But so the Royals, and Spencer Nivens had a couple of hits, so they had their hitting shoes on last night there. But they could use some more prospects in the organization for sure. I should mention that I understand Mikhail Garcia is going to be on rehab tonight here for Northwest Arkansas.
Good.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the Springfield Cardinals pitcher who, I think it's pronounced Aide, gave up 11 runs on 11 hits and four home runs?
I've never heard of a guy being left in to give up 11 runs, but that's the minors.
Yeah.
And that's in the script.
And he must have said something wrong to his manager during the day, like, I'm just going to leave him out there to dry now. But
oh my God.
Jesus Baez with his 16th homer since he's been up for about a month and a half, which is crazy. 30 now on the year. We were talking in the first hour that he's got to be a candidate to move over to his right and play third base, because Weatherholt and Wynn are not going anywhere anytime soon. Your thoughts on Jesus Baez, the Cardinals shortstop?
Yeah, he's a hitter. And obviously we know Rodriguez is too. So, yeah, they've got a couple of guys that are on the way up right there. I should also mention about Rockefort. He's got 29 home runs now in the minor leagues this year.
And that's crazy, because we were going through, ESPN did a re-rank of the top 10 prospects in each organization. He's not listed in the Royals' top 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, he's tiny.
Is he?
Not very big, but, that second one might have been his 30th. But, yeah, he's got some pop, and, yeah, he's a hitter.
I think we looked up, was he 24 maybe? So he's a guy that probably should get a chance at Omaha before the year's over, you think?
I would think, sure.
He's the kid who's the Raging Cajun, right?
Yeah. And just quietly putting
that's
up
James
great.
Carville.
Yeah, James Carville. I think that, the Royals, I don't know from that list. I'll have to go back and dig in and see how many are at Northwest Arkansas and where the other guys are. But the Churio pitcher, Kenrich, he's at high A, I think, isn't he? And a guy that probably will be in Springdale before long.
Yeah, I would think so, sure.
Yeah, so. All right. Well, we've kind of touched on that. Cardinals with an afternoon game today to finish up the Phillies series, the rubber match.
What a great win for the Cardinals last night, to Mr. Reynolds' chagrin, I know, but that's a great one.
My definite chagrin, when the bases are loaded and nobody's out, and Luis Arraez is the hitter, and the guy, oh my God almighty, what is 0 for 15?
0 for his last 15, or the last 3 games, 0 for 15 at the plate as their cleanup.
And hits into a double play.
Yeah, the last guy you would think that, probably the guy they wanted up in that, because all you got to do is put the ball in play.
He's a perfect guy.
Get it out of the infield somewhere, even a fly ball. And
he's probably the best hitter in baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, just not power, but true hitter.
Absolutely.
He is in a slump right now, big time.
Well, let's take a break and come back and have JVT on the other side.
This is the starting lineup, back in just a split second. It is great to have you with us on the starting lineup, and welcome back. Starting lineup brought to you by Play It Again Sports, by Citizens Bank of Rogersville, by Swing Right Golf, and by Marshfield Chevrolet. I'm Ned Reynolds, along with
Scott Purrier.
And Art Haynes.
And we have on with us the hardest working man in sports media. Russ never sleeps and never does JVT. Jonathan Von Tobel of the Visa Network, one of our favorites. JVT, good morning.
Morning, guys. How's it going? Very excited. Football season is 100% here. I think I said that to you guys last time, but preseason's underway in full swing tomorrow, so I'm excited. And we're like 2 weeks away from week 0, and it's a big one out here. UNLV's taking on Memphis in week 0, so the festivities get started very early.
I got to ask you this because we were debating it a couple days ago, but you guys this morning on the programs going on, they were talking about the lines on preseason NFL games. Do you have a certain kind of illness if you're betting NFL preseason games?
I don't think so. I think that is the running joke, but I think it also in the serious the answer is it depends on when you're betting it, how you're betting it, right? So I think one of the best examples to talk about preseason games and betting them is this Cincinnati game that we're going to see tomorrow. So Detroit opens up as a 3.5-point underdog when that number first gets posted. Last week, Zach Taylor told us that he was going to play his starters. And so this thing opens up 3.5, gets all the way up to 7. If you've laid 3.5 with the Cincinnati Bengals, you're in a pretty good spot. You got 3 points of value, and we'll see where this number eventually closes. But if you're coming in now and saying, well, Zach Taylor told me he's going to play the starter, so I'm going to lay 6.5 for 7. Well, you're behind the 8 ball a little bit. You probably shouldn't be doing that. If you're paying attention, if you're trying to get ahead of some of these line moves and you're watching these press conferences, it could be a profitable endeavor in the sense of getting the best numbers and seeing what happens. But I would not be putting hefty, as some people would call them, 10-unit plays on the NFL preseason. I think you're betting it small, and you're trying to bet on some of the information if you can get ahead of it.
John, we have a game here in Missouri, and it's coming up of all times on a Saturday afternoon. And it's 100 degrees out here. And it's the Rams and the Chiefs. Does that even figure into what kind of odds you're going to predict?
I don't think so. I mean, it's really, when you're looking at preseason stuff, too, it's going to be so difficult to really dictate what these teams want to do, especially teams like that, right, that have bigger fish to fry. I mean, the Chiefs and the Rams are obviously teams that have won Super Bowls in recent memory, and the Chiefs, of course, have a dynasty that is going, and they want to continue that thing. They're also a little bit older at key positions. So I don't think entirely that's going to be the case. What's going to be interesting is the thought of the Heat playing a role on the game would probably impact the total, but we're starting to see that the preseason might be a little higher scoring. I mean, and I know it's only one game, but the Hall of Fame game, obviously, would we have 63 points in that game?
33.
Generally, yeah, right. And then generally, the preseason games have trended a little bit higher scoring in recent years. So we'll see if maybe the Heat impacts that, but I don't think too much you're going to look at that and think that it's going to have a massive impact on the game itself.
Arthur?
So looking forward here now, what, Jonathan, are the trends that you see? What are some of the big stories around the training camps that might impact the regular season?
So I think one of the big things you're looking for, and I don't think I'm selling any secrets here, quarterback competitions are always pretty big. So when you're looking at teams that have quarterback competitions, it's not just the fact that you're going to have two quarterbacks maybe getting plays drawn up for them that are going to put them in the best pace to succeed. You might see a starting offensive line stay in a game a little bit longer, which is going to be pretty big. Offensive line play gets really, really wonky as the NFL preseason goes along. In fact, Haynes King, right before the Hall of Fame game, was asked about that, and he was talking about his mobility and the fact that the mobility helps when some of these offensive line combinations go through. So the Browns, for example, while in general people might not want to bet Cleveland for the most part, we saw that line flip from Chicago -1.5 to the Browns -1.5 because they have a quarterback competition. You might see a starting offensive line out there for a first half or maybe for three quarters, and that's really going to help them generate offense and maybe be a little bit more successful as they're trying to figure out between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders who's going to play. So I think that's the big one. And certain coaches handle the preseason pretty well, and others don't really care. You know, Dave Canales the other day in the Hall of Fame game covered his first preseason game as a head coach. Generally, he has not really cared about these preseason contests, and so maybe that's a larger trend. John Harbaugh, for a really long time, has been a preseason darling. Last year it didn't go so well, but then that extends into a weird regular season where he ends up getting fired. Now he's taking over a new regime in New York. Does that really matter for them as they move forward? And so is Harbaugh, again, going to be a guy that you want to bet on from an ATS standpoint in the preseason? We've seen that not manifest yet in these preseason lines. They're 1.5-point dogs at the open against Minnesota, but those are the things I think you're really looking for. New coaches taking over regimes, want to get off to a good start. They generally perform really well in the preseason too, and I think that's what you're looking for as well.
Visiting with Jonathan Von Tobel, Money Moves is on 1 o'clock our time here on 102.1 The One. We love the show, love the banter with Stormy Buonantony. Are you going to lose her? I saw she's moved up the ranks on ESPN's college football cruise there. Does that mean some Fridays maybe or Mondays without Stormy, or is it going to stay intact?
Well, Fridays generally in football season, she is gone because that's a travel day for her, unless she can make it. Which she does do a pretty good job of hosting remotely, although a couple of times she's like, I got to go have lunch with somebody. And so, she doesn't want to, make the show. But actually the bad news is for her, because she moves up, and I think she's generally going to be on ESPN or ABC now, if I remember correctly. That means earlier games. And so that means she has to be back in time for our Sunday show. We haven't confirmed yet what our Sunday schedule is going to look like, probably about 9 or 10 a.m. Pacific time. But bad news for her is earlier kickoffs means that she actually has more time to travel back, which means less time for her to miss on Sundays and Mondays.
Wanted to ask you, when we had you on last time, you were finishing up your previews for the college football betting guide, available as a VSiN Pro member on the VSiN website. Great stuff in there. It's it's almost a Phil Steelish preview, except more from a betting angle on some things. Has all the VSiN personalities, their predictions by conference. Don't want to spoil the whole thing, but JVT actually kind of goes chalk with Miami in the ACC, Oregon in the Big Ten, Texas Tech in the Big 12, Georgia in the SEC. But you've got Bama winning the whole thing. Explain yourself.
Yeah, I think that sounded, by the way, that sounded adversarial. Explain yourself. I think for the most part, I like Kalen DeBoer. I do think he's a good coach. And it's funny, standards in comparison with expectations of a fan base, right? Like if I had Kalen DeBoer as a head coach out here in Vegas for UNLV, I think we'd be all celebrating in the streets, considering what he has done as a head coach. But in Alabama, losing a college football playoff game, God forbid, to the to the ensuing national champs is a big deal. But I think first and foremost, I buy into DeBoer as a signal caller developer. I think Keelan Russell is going to be able to hit the ground running, and I think he's going to help an offense which last year did not have any balance whatsoever. They averaged just 3.4 yards per carry. They were 104 rush yards per game. They finished 132nd in rush success rate on the ground. This is a team that now, with pretty much a new offensive line and a now mobile quarterback, which I'm assuming Russell's going to win the job, by the way. I think that's kind of like a Vikings-esque quarterback competition. I think in general, DeBoer's going to have more at his fingertips that he wants, and akin to some of the past systems we've seen under DeBoer. So with more balance, I think is going to really help this defense out a lot. And by the way, his defense returns a good amount of personnel that was statistically one of the better ones in college football last year. So if I'm right in kind of buying low on DeBoer and the Crimson Tide, especially in a new regime at quarterback, I think you're going to be in a pretty good spot here if you're the Crimson Tide. So, and here's the thing too, I'll be quite honest. I don't really think that you want to echo chamber this thing, right? In the sense of everybody's going to look at this. We're going to see a lot of Ohio States and Oregons to win a national champion. I think you want to find some value. And if the upside hits for Alabama, I do think the upside is potential national champion type roster, and so that's why I picked the Crimson Tide.
John, obviously you have Alabama and Georgia as top teams in the SEC, and that's the reason why I'm asking this. Who are the other teams who you think might be contenders? And the reason I ask it is because our club here in town, Missouri State, opens with Texas A&M.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things. First off, I am lukewarm on Texas A&M. I'll start there only because I'm not like Marcel Reed was good last year, but he wasn't great. And I'm one that likes to dig under the hood with some of the numbers. And one of the things that really popped out to me with Marcel Reed was he struggles to throw the ball over the middle of the field. So he also, by the way, had a lot of turnover-worthy plays, threw a lot of interceptable passes last year. So if you're not going to improve in that regard, I think there's a really good chance that this new offense for Texas A&M is pretty mundane, and you've got to be good, especially in an SEC that I think is going to have some pretty good offenses. So I'm not as high on them. But I think some of the underlying teams that could make some noise, not to curry favor out there, but as I put it, because the way our format is for the guide is 3 burning questions for each team. And I put this in the guide for Missouri. Is this the best rush offense in the country? I mean, this team on paper looks like it's going to be really effective on the ground. And you look at Austin Simmons coming in from the transfer portal, how good they could be potentially if he hits the ground running. Again, probably should have won the job, or did win the job, I should say, at Ole Miss. But then we'll see what happens with this offense if he can cut down on his own turnover-worthy plays. I think the schedule's somewhat challenging, but their win total 6.5, shaded to the over. I think they could go over that win total and potentially be a pain in the ass. And I'll say, out of all the other teams that I think are going to be generally pretty good in this conference, if we're looking just a little more dark horse, I absolutely really love Tennessee's roster. Like Faison Brandon, is going to be a real question as a true freshman, but so much returning personnel on offense. An offensive line that is going to be up for a Joe Moore Award potentially. A defense that now has Jim Knowles calling all the shots and one of the better linebacking cores in the SEC. I think that team's going to be a really big surprise. And, digging into Tennessee, because they didn't really do much on the SEC prior to this year, I'm kind of surprised about the firm floor, I'll call it, that Josh Heupel has. He's consistently won about 8 games out there. The offense has been consistently good, and I think that team's going to be a very tough out every week, especially if Brandon hits as a true freshman.
So you must be factoring that Ahmad Hardy is going to be 100% healthy to put Mizzou in that cat. I mean, I agree. If he's like last year, that is the best running attack in the country. But what are you hearing about his health?
I mean, I kind of have to take a Drinkwitz and this coaching staff at their word, right? I think it was at SEC Media Days that said that he would be healthy and ready to roll. So outside of that, I think that you kind of have to trust that that's going to be the case. And, you guys would know a little bit more, but I think behind him too, it's not him, it's Roberts as well, who's back as part of that tandem. So, even if he's not fully healthy, I kind of trust that that's going to be a tandem that can pick one another up. The offensive line overall sounds like it's going to be pretty good. Caden Green back along the offensive line. You got 118 starts in the room, so the offensive line should be really, really good. And to go back to the quarterback position as well, I wrote about this in the guide. One of the big things for Simmons in 84 dropbacks last season, 5 interceptions, turnover-worthy play rate of 5.7%. But if they're going to run the ball and he can take care of it a little bit more, that's going to be an offense that's going to be really good. So I think it's one of those offenses that generally can kind of pick itself up in some of the spots where it's weakest, and I think they're going to be pretty explosive.
JVT, I saw in your best bets or your predictions, personally, you've got Gunnar Stockton winning the Heisman, the Georgia quarterback. Not hearing a lot about Arch Manning, it seems like, nationally this year. Is there a little Arch fatigue, or is he actually maybe under the radar with Texas?
I mean, it's weird, right? Because I would tend to agree with you, especially when it comes to perception. People, I keep having actually to defend Arch Manning. My co-host Dustin Sweetelson had the audacity to say that John Mateer was better than Arch Manning, and I mocked him and then played his clip and then made fun of him even more on the show because I think it's a ridiculous statement. But to your point, people I think were underwhelmed by his season last year. And the numbers on the surface are somewhat mundane, especially when you're looking at the completion percentage. And when you hear, hey, NFL teams are tanking for this guy, he's going to be a first overall pick, and then you put forth those numbers, I think people are going to be down on him. But I also think that we need to realize as a whole, as a country, offensive line can impact the way you play as quarterback, no matter how talented you are. And he had one of the worst offensive lines in the SEC last year. He was pressured on the most dropbacks amongst SEC quarterbacks. His pressure rate of 35.6% was the most among qualified quarterbacks. And that is going to alter the way that you play. But this year, they bring in a couple of transfers. 2 of their better offensive linemen are back. And I think that you're going to see a way better version of Arch, much like he closed out the year. Those last few games, I think it was the last 5 or 6. Yeah, it's last 6. They go 5-1 straight up. They cover 3 of those games, and he ends up throwing 14 touchdowns with a turnover-worthy play rate of just 1.2%. So I think that you're going to see a really, really good version of Arch Manning this year. And I think this team is, like you're talking about, despite their status in the betting market as a favorite, I actually kind of think they are flying under the radar. And even I had to defend Steve Sarkisian in the big picture. I can't remember who it was. Folks, he's won a couple of college football playoff games with Quinn Ewers. Like, they're actually, I think, pretty solid. So I do think that they're in. And the last note about Texas really quickly, what I find fascinating, they leave the state of Texas one time until the start of November. They just have to go to Tennessee, and that's it. The Cotton Bowl obviously match up with Oklahoma. They don't have to go anywhere. So this schedule is set up really, really well.
John, last year's darling of college football, Mendoza, he is out there with you guys now. How is he doing? What's the grade factor on him?
So everything that I'm understanding is that he looks like a rookie, right? Like he's had a couple of days in which he has been okay, and there's been a couple of days in which he has really struggled. And I think generally that is what was the expectation. He was the first overall pick, and let's face it, a pretty weak quarterback class this last year. To bring in and invoke Arch Manning, had Arch Manning just decided the day before the deadline that he wanted to declare, he would have been the first overall pick. There's really no question about that. And so this is a year in which the Raiders have really spoken loudly that they want him to learn. They want him to sit behind Kirk Cousins. And I think if they had their way, kind of reading between the lines and from the people I've talked to, a good season for the Raiders is that he doesn't play a snap maybe in a Week 18 meaningless game because they have nothing on the line. Hopefully where playoff seeding is involved, obviously, for the Raiders. That's what they want. That's their dream. So I don't think you're going to see him unless all hell breaks loose. When we're talking about maybe like a 1-9, 1-8 start to the season, Kirk Cousins is absolutely awful, and then they decide to let's kick the tires and see what we've got in a year that is completely lost. But I think they want him to sit back and learn behind Kirk Cousins all year long. So I don't think it's been a negative, and we're going to find out. We heard Clint Kubiak yesterday at the press conference. He talked about how he's going to get a lot of meaningful snaps coming up here tomorrow against the Arizona Cardinals. There is a chance they're going to put the starting offensive line in front of him to see what he's got in the best situation possible. And from there, I think it's going to be a learning experience. But let's be honest, outside of Brock Bowers, another SEC connection, there's not much in terms of wide receiver talent here. And outside of Ashton Genty, which has struggled, who has struggled at the beginning portion of his career, there's not much to work with. And I think they don't want to set him up for failure.
Well, getting a little deeper in the Raiders' quarterback depth chart, Missouri State guy Jacob Clark is on there. We're hearing he might be a practice squad quarterback. You hearing anything about him?
No, I think that's pretty much about it. I mean, I think they're going to give him some meaningful run in the preseason. I don't think Kubiak's a guy that wants to show a ton of cards in terms of game plan and whatnot. So I've been asking around to see if they're going to take these seriously, to kind of go back to our thought about the new coaches taking the preseason seriously. I don't know if Kubiak's going to be in that vein, but I do think that guys like him are going to get a lot of run because they want to make sure their starters are rested, ready to go, and they want to show their cards once the regular season hit. And I think that means guys like him who are trying to grab practice squad spots, or maybe even fringe roster spots, that's going to be the case. But I don't know if he's got a spot on the true roster, but I do think that the Raiders are going to be looking diligently at him because this new regime does seem to be very serious about building quality depth.
The hardest working man in sports. He does more before 8 a.m. his time than anybody in the industry. He's JVT. Before we let you go, sell us on VSiN Pro membership for those guys. We're new in Missouri to this whole online betting thing. What will they find in there? And lastly, you guys have all these picks and predictions. How much, how often do you bet during the week? I mean, is it all you guys, the VSiN staffers? This is your job, your life. Do you back it up with putting your money down on a lot of these things you talk about?
Oh, yeah. I mean, personally, I will. Everything that I put in there is I have a personal wager on. So I think that's the way that it should be when you're talking about giving that sort of information out, right? At the very least, I'm not going to be toutish in the sense of giving up picks that are something that I've actually put money on. So when you see it, that's something that I've actually played. But as part of the VSiN Pro subscription, look, I think we do a really good job in a lot of different things. I think the guides are absolutely tremendous. As you mentioned, it's a different way to look at every single one of these sports when you look at preseason previews. And I know it's kind of crazy, but it's only August. But guess what? We're going to start working on here in a little bit. The NBA betting guide and the hockey betting guide. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming up. And as part of a VSiN Pro subscription, I know we're really pushing this college football guide, which we rightfully should. But you get everything. We update the NFL guide right before the season starts with key injuries, more best bets, things of that nature. And just the general stuff that's offered up on the website. It's not just the guides. It's not just being able to watch my ugly face next to Stormy every single day. We have a lot of really good tools up there. We have odd screens for you. One of the things that I don't think we push enough is our player prop stuff. We have player prop projections. We have player prop analyzing tools. If you really want to get into those a little bit more, and they help with fantasy as well, there's a ton of stuff on the website behind the scenes that we don't push forward enough. I personally think that you should definitely check out. And there's different ways to sign up, too. If you just want to see what a month is like, it's $9.99. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe. You get everything that I'm talking about, and you can see if it's for you or not over the course of 30 days.
What is your over-under on LeBron being on national television this year?
Let's see. They play 82 games, so I'll be conservative and say 79. How about that?
Pretty good.
JVT, we appreciate it. Go get your 6-mile run in and give Stormy hell at 1 o'clock today our time, okay?
I've already done it already. I've been sending her text messages all morning. She woke up to them. So, yep, I'll do it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Jonathan Von Tobel visiting with us from out in Las Vegas. Timeout on the starting lineup. Back in a second. John was very good in talking a little bit about the preseason games that are tomorrow. They do have a pretty full schedule on Thursday. I think it's one on Friday and then several of them on Saturday.
Absolutely, yeah. And he's always so good. And you know, we talked to him before he comes on while we're in commercial break, and he has lost between 60 and 70 pounds. Mm-hmm. So when we started this show back in November, it was a different JVT, and he's running. He's training for a 10K, so he's up to 6 miles on the long runs a day. And again, I think his show with Stormy Money Moves at 1 o'clock on this station is the best show on this station, and it's you know, that we unfortunately cut away at 2 o'clock to go to the Visa or to go to Jim Rome. Yeah. But I will often tune. I've got Sirius XM. I'll tune into. I think it's 158 and catch the second hour. Of those
well,
two.
Today it won't be on because of the Cardinals game.
Well, and that's a whole other thing because the streaming games aren't available on the Cardinals games. It's still the Visa lineup.
Just Visa, yeah.
Yeah, so.
But on the over-the-air.
Yeah. Art, he's pretty good, isn't he?
Yeah, boy. I mean, talks a mile a minute.
He does.
He's got so much information, and he presents it well.
And we were talking earlier that he was on when I was driving in at 6:30 our time, which is 4:30 a.m. his time, and he's already been up. You know, he's been up and done a hit there before 8 o'clock their time in Vegas, and so.
Well, look. He, let's face it. He's a hyper individual.
Yeah,
he really wants to get going. He probably doesn't sleep very much.
Well, yeah, it probably doesn't require much sleep, which is not like us. But anyway, so good to have him on. And again, the VSiN Pro subscription. If you're a gambler, it's a great thing out there. Their website, VSiN.com, VSIN.com, just a ton of information on there. NFL preseason week 1 betting trends included. Wow.
There is a slew of it. All right, folks, Cardinals will be playing the Philadelphia Phillies, and the game will start at 1:15. It'll be 100 degrees up there or more, but you'll hear the game right here at 102.1 The One. Alrighty, that wraps it up for today, and we very much appreciate for being with us. I'm Ned Reynolds, along with
Scott Purrier.
Art Haynes.
And we will be right here tomorrow at this very same time. Please make plans to be with us. We're out of here.
See ya.